Welcome, everyone, to Winning in the Shadows. I'm Andy. That is Jim. We're going to be breaking down UFC 303. We're going to be going over all of the fights. We're going to take a look at some totals, of course, the money lines, any props. It's only Tuesday at the time of recording this, so it's kind of a preliminary look. We'll tell you if we're actually betting on something or if it's just leans at this point. Of course, we got weigh-ins. We've got, in case we have any gastelums that we need to keep our eye on. So preliminary look at these fights, and thank you for joining us live. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let us know. We are on Twitter Live, and we are on our new YouTube channel, Winning in the Shadows Bets and Predictions. If you have not subscribed to Winning in the Shadows Bets and Predictions YouTube channel, please do that. That is going to be where our Takedown Live shows are going to be from now on, and it's going to be where we're going to house all of our content. So we're going to have a lot of player prop futures for NFL. It's going to be where we go over all of our official plays. We'll have a lot more content on that. So really excited to have you all. But Jim, let's get right into it. Ricky Simón and Vinicius Oliveira. I will make a confession. This is just me being a complete dumbass. I saw this fight and I was like, Ricky Simón, wow. At this price, great. And then I realized he was fighting Vinicius Oliveira, not Vinicius Salvador. So it's quite a different fighter. I still think the result is the same, but I went from being all in on Ricky to just being like, man, I really think he dominates in this one. I guess let's come back to Ricky's mode. So let's talk about Oliveira. Tons of power, kind of fights like a dope, and I think we had a bet on this fight again when he was against Bernardo in his last fight. I'm pretty sure we had a bet to not go the distance, and we had written it off because Oliveira was just fighting like an idiot. And then comes with the flying knee from hell, and to this day, I really hope Bernardo's okay. I think it took some time off of his career. But when you go back and you look at Vinicius Oliveira, he's just one of these fighters that his pure strength and raw power has gotten him to this point. And I feel like he hasn't really learned some of the finer points needed to fight with some of the finer points. He hasn't had to be real cerebral. It's just been, I will completely overpower, and I think this is going to be a very, very humbling match for him. I think Ricky Simón is going to dominate with the chain wrestling, and you got Simón who's coming off of 2 losses, so Ricky can't be screwing around here. That being said, Yadong Song, that was a great fight, no shame in that one. And Mario Bautista, that was like the best I've seen Mario Bautista look. Mario Bautista looked like a world beater in that one. So I think it's a really nice get-right spot. You and I love betting against guys with bad fight IQ. We hate when guys show bad fight IQ in the ring, and I think Oliveira probably shows some really dumb moments, and I think Ricky is the worst person that he could be fighting now if he shows some. So I have Ricky winning this fight. I have not gotten to the window on it. Right now, DraftKings has about minus 238. Pretty surprised that the over-under is 2.5 at even money. I would lean a little bit to the over in that one because I think Simón grinds this one out. What do you think about this fight?
This is a veteran against a up-and-comer, and Oliveira is no baby either. He's up there. He's not up there in age, but he's not 21. Another off the contender series. That Sopaj fight that was short notice. I don't believe it was up a weight class for Sopaj, but I believe he was the champion of another organization and came in. And didn't he? I think he had another fight booked after this fight already. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, to no surprise, right? It got canceled.
Yeah, what a shocker.
After that knee that he took. So, yeah.
This is true. Simón's back is against the wall. He is probably one of the few. You got him, you got Marab, these grinding wrestler. Grant Dawson, just wrestle, takedown, wrestle. And I think people forget how successful this style can be when your opponent cannot keep you off of him. I think there's a better way to bet this fight than pre-fight, than live. Oliveira's probably going to look good first 2 minutes if Simón can't get the takedown. I think if we see Simón be able to get the takedown midway through the first round or late, I think it's his fight in round 2 and round 3. So that 238 number on Ricky Simón, we might be able to get a discount on this halfway through. With Ricky, you always worry about him getting clipped. Oliveira most certainly can do that. He has the death touch in his hands. But if he shows the fight IQ that he showed before, he got taken down by Sopaj. And if you're going to get taken down by him, you're going to get taken down by Ricky Simón. And yes, in Ricky's last fight, he did not look good. But you got to think he's uncovering every stone, just doing everything he can to make sure that he's prepared for this. And we could see a veteran lesson. It would not shock me one bit if Oliveira just gets schooled in the point system of MMA. Now, that being said, we haven't seen control and takedown score as well as damage, so it's a bit of a worry in this fight, but I don't think you can deny somebody a round when they have 4 takedowns and 4 minutes of control time. So that's the kind of output I'm hoping for from Simón to really be able to lock up rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah, 20-3. That's a very, very impressive record. But again, I think he's just kind of been one of those guys. It's a terrible example. I played soccer with a guy like this in high school, where he was just bigger, faster, and taller than everybody as everyone was growing up. And then when he was a freshman in high school, he was bigger than the seniors, and so he had a good high school soccer career. And then he got to college and couldn't get off the bench. It's because he didn't learn the finer things. He just didn't learn the nuances of the game. And once he got there with guys that were as experienced and had better skills than him, his speed just wasn't there. And it was very interesting to watch that. I think that's what happens here. So we both like Ricky Simón on this one. Carlos Hernandez and Ray Saruya, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I want nothing to do with this fight. The only thing I could possibly think is to play the theory of the road to UFC guys not going the distance. Hernandez gets blasted by Tyra, who isn't a knockout guy. Gets submitted very quick against Alan Nascimento. He's not very good. And on the flip side, this road to UFC, he's been to decision once. So I don't have a strong opinion on this fight, mostly because these odds are just like, really, we're going to be laying almost minus 500 on a road to UFC guy against him. He's not a great UFC fighter, Carlos Hernandez, but he has fought in the UFC, so I think it's a recipe for disaster. The only thing I would be interested in is this fight to not go the distance, but again, probably not bet worthy for me. What do you think?
Same, not bet worthy at all. It's just I'm not a fan of Carlos Hernandez. I don't know if he's a UFC fighter, but what level? That's the question. So I don't think we're really getting the massive UFC step up here that Ray has to deal with. So, obviously, who does the UFC want to push? Of course they want to push Saruya. They want that Japanese market, just like they do with Tyra and everybody else. So I get it. There's no way in the world I'm playing a minus 470. It's just, that's silly. It's silly.
Yeah. Really is.
Even the totals, you have the over 2.5 juiced if you think that Hernandez can last. But he couldn't last against Tyra on the feet. He couldn't last against Nascimento on the ground. So I don't think we have enough information to prove that he is going to be able. Ray is going to wrestle. That is going to happen. That's the one thing we know about this fight. So either Hernandez can gut it out for 3 rounds and lose a decision, or he's going to get melted and probably submitted. So no bet for me on this fight. Like you said, road to UFC guy against low-level UFC competition. We know who the UFC wants to push, but you can't play the number. Move on.
Andre Arlovsky and Martin Badai. So here is our chance to talk about our first. Is this potential? I love your theory on this night. We potentially have some retirements on the card. Yeah. Like, could we see multiple retirements? There's a few of them that you could make the case that would make all the sense in the world, and Andre Arlovsky certainly is one of them. This is Andre Arlovsky's 34-23, absolute legend, and he has just looked awful. Even in his wins, like Jared Van Dare and Jake Collier, split decision wins, he has not looked good. And going up against Martin Badai, who absolutely just got, tortured absolutely tortured by Gaziev. But before that, got wins over Barnett, Bresky, Jake Collier, Josh Parisian. I'll let you go first here. One last ride, one last win for Andrei Arlovsky, or is this is it going to go out with a whimper?
Hell no, it's not one more win. No way. Andre, we talked about this fight last night, and I said, why am I looking at this with hesitation? So I did a deep dive. I went on Andre's Instagram. See a lot of public speaking. See a lot of promotions of products and gyms and coaching and all the things that you don't really want to see if you're still a committed cage fighter. And how could he be committed at his age? I'm sure he's doing the best he can. But the best that he can is not his best from old. And going back and watching Andre's past couple fights, I was worried about the speed and Boudet not being able to catch him. Yeah, I think Boudet's going to catch him. We saw Andre slow down a lot. In that Dontel Mays fight, he was winning. And in that third round, his evasiveness, his sharpness really just went right out the window. And that's why Dontel was able to get to him. Lima makes it look easy on the ground. If Boudet gets this fight into a clinch or on the ground, it's going to be a short night for Andre. And I don't think Boudet is going to have to do a lot to get him out of there. So, yeah, I think this is our first retirement of the night. I would hang the over retirements
1.5.
2.5.
Oh, you're
So I
going
would say
2.5. So
2.5.
you're taking...
I'm very, very confident in these retirements this week. I think we could see possibly 3, maybe 4. Who knows?
4 retirements.
One surprising one. Who knows? Maybe an unwilling retirement, like a guy is retired from a beating.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
Boudet is minus 250. The under 2.5 is plus 130. If you think that Andre's washed, obviously in his losses, they're by finish. If it goes to decision, Andre can always pull out a win. But I think Boudet is going to come back very motivated from that Shamil fight. And this is a different animal that he's facing. He's not going to be facing the firepower that he was in the last fight by any means. Andre's not knocking anybody out. He's just not. Hasn't forever. He's not knocking anybody out. So yeah, Martin Boudet. Martin Boudet by finish when it comes out. That's going to be interesting. We'll see what that's lined at. But yeah, I like Boudet.
I'm not going to get there on Boudet by finish, but I am going to get there on Boudet as one of those. We'll talk about the segment coming up later, the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, we're at the end of the night. What's the bet that we're like, why didn't we take that? That was the most obvious one on the card. It's in honor of Grant Dawson against Joe Selecki.
Yes.
Like 2 weeks before, it was like, why aren't we just loading up on Grant Dawson? How is Joe Selecki going to beat Grant Dawson? And then, of course, the line goes through the roof, and we were sitting there. We could have had the easiest win on the planet. But Boudet at minus 250, when I first looked at him, I'm like, you're not laying minus 250 on Boudet. And then I was like, oh, he's fighting Arlovsky. Yeah, you are laying minus 50. Arlovsky in his last fight, his strikes they literally looked like they were in slow motion. And they had nothing on them. There's no power. There's no threat. It's Boudet, absolutely, 100%.
One quick note on this as well is that Martin Boudet was training with Mick Parkin and Tom Aspinall leading up to this fight. So you're training with Mick Parkin, you're thinking that the grappling's going to come in. From what I've heard from that camp, they've been working a lot of grappling. So, I mean, that's the way you beat Andre. You take it down, submit him.
It would make sense there. Jillian Robertson and Michelle Waterson-Gomez. This record of Michelle Waterson-Gomez is really something. So she's won in, what is this, 6? I mean, this is like cut territory, like beyond belief. But then look who they've had her fighting. Marina Rodriguez twice, Amanda Lemos, Juana Pinheiro, Angela Hill, Carla Esparza, Joanna. Like, this is kind of a murderer's row here. Like, they're just giving her all of these tough fighters. That being said, is this another almost maybe retirement situation here, Jim?
Second retirement of the night.
Back to back? We're going back to back?
Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? We go back to back retirements. Then we could play the who did it better game at the end. who had the better closing speech.
Well,
Michelle's got it.
Well, if it comes down to Arlovsky and Gomez, it's Gomez.
Gomez.
Minus, you're talking Peyton Talbott numbers in terms of who gives the better retirement speech. So, what do you think? Gomez going out with a whimper?
Yeah. Everybody always worries about Jillian's stand-up. And it's still not good, but it has improved. It all depends if she is going to commit to the wrestling and the grappling or not. And against Michelle, you don't really have a choice. Jillian will not win a 3-round striking battle, like period. And for God's sakes, please, I hope her corner has told her this, and her fight camp has been built around this. Jillian is just dangerous on the ground. She is the most dangerous women's fighter in this division on the ground. She's been for her entire career. And if it gets down there, I don't see Michelle getting up, number one, and surviving the ground and pound or the submission. Michelle, again, you go down her Instagram, a lot of promotional things, being a mom, all these things. Jillian Robinson's doing nothing but having a smoke once in a while and training. That's all she does. Jiu-jitsu and hang out. And I think this weight class was a good move for her. Big size advantage for her in this fight. I think when these two girls get in the cage, you're going to see a big size and strength advantage for Jillian. So if Jillian can close the distance, Michelle Waterson's going to pop that side kick out there. She's going to do that quick 1-2. She'll throw a kick up high. But at some point, she's going to find her back to the fence. And that's where Jillian can make her bones in this fight. And once she gets it on the ground, I don't see Michelle surviving here. I just can't bet on a Michelle Waterson in 2024. I can't.
I'm with you. I didn't like it at all on Jillian Robertson, and then not only did I start to like Jillian Robertson, I just was going down the list of her wins. I mean, look at her wins. I mean, this is someone that finishes. Pollyanna, finish. Pierre Rodriguez, finish. Finishes Rose in a grappling, but again, finish. Agapova, we'll always remember that one. Finish. She loses to Aldridge, but that goes decision against Cachoeira. Finish. So this is someone that has been finishing in all of her wins, and you're right. Just Waterson, man, I mean, she took an ass whooping in her last fight. Like, she got really, really beat up bad, and it was just kind of like, please don't fight again. So maybe one last time, and maybe they're doing a solid, which is like, let's get her one more fight, but let's try and find her somebody that doesn't really punch that hard. I know, Jillian Robertson. Oh, okay, she'll lose on the ground, but at least we're not putting her up against somebody that's gonna mash her face in. So I have, all things considered in terms of odds, I think Jillian Robertson is one of my favorite plays on this card at minus 185 here. It's bettable on its own. If you wanted to put it with another parlay piece to lower it, you could. I think this is going to be one-way traffic once it gets to the ground. The only thing that does worry me about me is Gomez is very active. I mean, she is going to be moving around. She can probably move out of the way sometimes, but I think it's only 1 or 2 takedown situations, and Robertson eventually kind of gets the finish on the ground. So Robertson inside the distance, I mean, listen, that's what Robertson does. She wins on the ground. When she wins on the ground. When she loses by decision. So it's Robertson for me, but the money line is good enough for me to play on its own. So thanks everyone for joining us.
Under 2.5 plus 130.
Yeah, I mean, if
you like
Robertson, yeah, that has nothing to do with Waterson
None.
finishing, but Jillian
Zero.
Robertson, yeah, you could get it under 2.5, absolutely. So, thanks everyone for joining us, and if you could hit the like button and leave us a comment, and if you have not subscribed to the Winning in the Shadows YouTube channel, go ahead and do that now. We just started it last week, and we're really excited to build that thing up. We'll be having a lot more content. We'll be doing a lot more of the bankroll management, Road to Millions content, where we'll be talking a lot about, what are our record in picks, how are we building our bankrolls, and we're going to get into a lot more specifics on that channel, as well as putting out a lot more content. So those of you that have been with us for a while, first off, thank you, but make sure we get over to that Winning in the Shadows Bets and Predictions YouTube channel, and we'll start building that thing. All right, Peyton Talbott and Yanis Ghemmouri. Peyton Talbott was like minus 400 a few weeks ago. Now he's minus 1,600. I think Peyton Talbott inside the distance is the parlay buster of the week.
Wow.
I think because everyone wants to bet on Payton Talbot. Your minus 1,600 does nothing for you. And the books are telling you they're not quite sure if this is going to be an early finish. Under 1.5 is plus money. Mm-hmm. So, I think this is because there's going to be a parlay buster. It's UFC 303. It's a pay-per-view. Something's going to crush everybody. And I know Talbot has finished Cameron Simon and Nick, I think it's Aguirre. I don't know if it's Garry or Aguirre.
Garry or Aguirre.
Garry Aguirre. So he's got the finishes there. I think this is the one that trips everyone up. I have no reasoning for it whatsoever because Ghemmouri looked horrendous in his first fight. Like, when you get finished by William Gomez from a body kick, but it was in round 3. He was getting there. So it's obviously Talbot all day. Like, the UFC's bringing him along very slow. I don't know. Something tells me that there's going to be one that wrecks everyone's parlays. I think Talbot inside the distance is the one to do it. Why? What if Talbot's team is like, let's see you go all 3 rounds. Let's see you work the ground. I don't know, striking, whatever. Like, use him as a punching bag, whatever. But this is my parlay buster nominee. It's Talbot, but I think he costs people a lot of money when he doesn't get the finish. What do you think?
I could see it. I don't think Yanis Ghemmouri is that guy. I just don't. It's a guy from French MMA. If you guys have been watching us for a while, not a huge fan of French MMA in general. They're very risk-adverse and boring. And if you are going to be risk-adverse and boring and stand at range against Payton Talbot, you are asking to get hit with that shot that you don't see coming. And the one you don't see coming is the one that puts your lights out. This is a pay-per-view. It's a Talbot spot. Now, that being said, we don't even have lines on Payton by finish. If Payton by finish is minus 500, what's the point? What's the point?
No point.
Like, what's the point? I think we've just been priced out of this fight entirely. The under 1.5, I don't even know if it's an under 1.5. We've seen Talbot be one of those fighters that downloads information, stays relaxed, takes his time. Just takes his time. And look at these finish times. Round 2, round 3, round 2, round 3, round 2, round 3, round 2.
There's no round 1s in there. There's no
Exactly.
round 1s.
So I think the books are dangling that plus money on the under 1.5, and that could be another way that it could bust some parlays or bust some plays in general. I think he takes the time and he gets it done late in round 2. It wouldn't shock me by any means. And, I think he's going to get his cage time because he needs it. Needs the cage time at this level. And at some point, he'll be able to push for the finish. It's just, you can't really bet this fight anymore. We've been priced out of the market. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Payton Talbot minus 400.
Yeah.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
We talked about it a month ago, and then we didn't.
Yeah. We
didn't
nothing
take
with it.
but whatever.
But that's okay. I'm not laying a minus, what is it now, 1,600? Whatever it's up to.
I've never seen a line
on Payton
quadruple
Talbot.
like that.
Overnight.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's Talbot, but...
Payton Talbot's going to win this fight. Let's just...
Yeah.
We'll make that clear.
Just mark my words. Something stinks about this fight in the under. So, Charles Jourdain and Gene Silva. Jim, what do you think about this one?
Oh, we're going to butt heads on this one. I already know it.
Probably.
I like Charles Jourdain. I like Charles Jourdain in this spot because he's been around. This Gene Silva guy, he's going to get got. There's going to be a point where he just gets it. He has not had to grit through and fight through being outclassed. I think stand-up wise, Jourdain is most certainly a step above as far as overall skill set. Silva relies on his brute strength, durability, his mental makeup, and just marching forward. And I don't think anybody's been able to challenge him. I think this is going to be the point which Silva's going to have to go back and do a little reset and become a little bit more of a polished fighter. Jourdain against Woodson, look, Sean Woodson is such a tough matchup for everybody. Because of his size, because of his skill set. There's been many fights that Sean Woodson's won where he's not been the better fighter. but that physical skill set is just a nightmare to deal with. Absolute nightmare. And it was a split. It was close. I do think that Woodson won that fight. I don't think it was justifiably a split. But obviously, in today's MMA, we've seen judges go two different ways. I believe in the third round that Jourdain is going to have more pep if we get there. To me, Jourdain just has to not get knocked out or submitted in round one. And I think that he is going to be able to pull away and outclass Silva in this spot. And Silva gets a little lesson from a veteran who's been around and been through the fire. And goes from there. I don't think that Silva has met this challenge enough in his career to where he's already grown into his finished product, and this could be a learning lesson for him.
I just can't get on board Charles Jourdain. I have never been able to just quite get there. I mean, Kron Gracie, yeah, but I mean, Ricardo Ramos just made a really stupid, just an absolutely stupid mistake. Credit to Jourdain, but I mean, Jourdain was on the ground. I mean, he had gotten, he didn't want the fight there. The fight ended up there. Ramos was on top, and Ramos was like, here, choke me out. So, I mean, credit to Jourdain. A win is a win. But, yeah, losing to Burgos and Wood and then Woodson. There's something about this line that really, really smells. I would have thought Jourdain should be minus 170, minus 175. Because you're right, Gene Silva is not that great. He's certainly not fast enough. He's on the feet. He's certainly way slower than Jourdain. And, you know, okay, great. He knocked out Weston Wilson. I didn't think he looked great on Contender Series. I have questions about this line. Why is the line close to even?
It keeps moving. It keeps
Why?
moving. It keeps moving, and I'm going to let it move.
I don't get it. Like, Silva's a power puncher, and I'm not really sure that Jourdain's like. I mean, Jourdain, it's not like he's, you know, chinny, you know, or anything like that. But there's something about this line on a fighter that I just think, like maybe this is the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Like, why did, yeah, of course Gene Silva was going to lose. But there's something about this fight that smells. It just reeks. Silva should lose. He's not that good, but there's something about Jourdain I've never been able to get on board with. You just losing split decisions to Sean Woodson and, you know, getting an opportunistic choke against Ramos, but there's just something about him I can never quite get there. So I'm not saying my official pick is Gene Silva. I'm just saying this line I don't understand. And maybe the books are on my side. Maybe they're going, no. Like, we're not giving you plus 160 to fade Charles Jourdain. Maybe that's the way that they're looking at it. But Jourdain will probably be a very popular pick this week because I think most people see it the way you and I do. It's just the line. The line.
Well, I mean, Silva right now is the popular pick. From what I've gathered, there's a lot of love on Silva, and the line is reflecting it.
See,
now, that being said,
that's ridiculous.
I am not betting Charles Jourdain if he's not plus money in this fight. Okay?
Right.
So I'm watching this line. We're down to minus 102 on Gene Silva and minus 118 on Jourdain. This started at, I believe, plus 170 on Silva. So the only way you can bet this fight is with the plus money.
Yeah.
So I'll wait and see. But my pick is Jourdain.
Cub Swanson and Andre Fili. Here's another retirement number 3. I just want to confirm it's Cub Swanson, right?
Yes.
That's the one. All right. Well, I'll let you talk about this one. I mean, we have Cub Swanson. Corbin lost his mind on this game. As did most of us. I mean, most of us were. The wrong person won. How do I know that? Because Cub Swanson said the wrong person won. So we think that was going to be Cub Swanson's retirement fight. He had his family in the audience. It was just kind of set up, and then, oops, I won. How did that happen? So you think Cub Swanson is gonna maybe this is the retirement, which is funny because it's like. Maybe it wasn't going to be a retirement fight because he could have retired on top. Of course, maybe he was just like, I don't want to retire like that. I don't want to retire. I want to retire winning a fight I had no business winning. I'll go for another payday. What's your breakdown, Cub Swanson and Andre Fili? I will tell you minus 245. on Andre Fili. You're never going to get me to lay my hard-earned money on Andre Fili minus 245. What do you think?
Nope, no way. Nope. Nope, not on Fili.
It's bankroll suicide.
That's not happening, folks. Nope. I got a different way of playing this fight. I do think this is Cubs' last fight. I do not like Andre Fili's chin. He is a perennial ball dropper when he steps up in competition, and he's been that way his entire career. Go down all the way to the bottom, and every time there's a step up, he just drops the ball. Coming off a bad knockout as well. Fell in love with his power, got himself knocked out. Andre Fili loses most of the time lately. He's losing by finish. We got a choke. We got a punch. What else we got? We got another choke. We got another punch.
Yeah,
he
his
lost a
fights are
decision
going
to Nathaniel Wood, but that fight was wild.
Yes, it
That
was.
Nathaniel Wood fight was a great fight. Both guys were so beat up, I don't think they could have finished in round 3 at that point. They were just beat to hell. Somebody's getting served in this fight. Either Andre catches Cub, and Cub just can't fight through it, and this is his retirement fight, and that fight's not there, or you're going to see Cub Swanson throw that overhand right that Andre Fili just refuses to learn how to avoid, and it's going to blast Andre Fili. Cub still has power. What I worry about with Cub is his willingness to take the damage, and he has taken a lot of damage in his fight. If you ever get a minute, check out his interview on Rampage's podcast, where he talks about his training partner shattering his face with a jump knee. So this is what's been going on in the gym, not the fights. So Cub's a little, he's wear and tearing a lot. Just play the under. Like, I just think somebody gets served and gets served early in this fight. So even money for the under 2.5. If you want to buy the extra half round when that comes out, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Fili is a nominee for maybe one of the Jordan Wright type chins. Ige. Ige put on money. He's got kind of a longer neck. Feels like those guys. Once the longer neck guys get knocked out a few times hard, it's just over. It's just over. Your neck snaps too hard. Your chin snaps too hard. Andre Fili would be the worst power slap guy ever. Absolutely ever. So the pick is under. I'm not going with a side. There's no chance I'm laying minus 245 on Fili. I'm not betting on Cub Swanson, but under I think is a really good way to look at it. Yeah. Joe Pyfer and Marc-André Barriault. I will go first on this one as the only person who correctly predicted that Jack Hermansson would beat Joe Pyfer last time. I still was stunned that there weren't a lot more people that realized that Pyfer goes too hard too early and gets tired when he doesn't quite get it, and he's been beating up on the Abdul Alassans, the Mearshars, the Alan Amadovskis of the world. And the other thing about Joe Pyfer that this is kind of another one of these theories, is fading Dana White's favorite. that Dana White moves up way too fast, and Pyfer fell into that. I mean, we know Pyfer's story. He the best thing that happened to Joe Pyfer was on his episode of Contender Series. Every fight before him was horrible. It was the worst night in ever on that series. Pyfer comes out and gets the strike. Then Dana, do you beat Joe Pyfer? And of course, there were things where he loses to Stolfus in the slam. I believe Pyfer was homeless for a while. I think Dana gave him a little bit of money to help him out, get him on his feet. So, okay, beats Alan Amadovsky. Okay, great. Knocks out Mearshart, and then knocks out Alisson. And then bang, step up in competition. Blew his wad in the first round, and it was over. It was, once that second round got going, you were like, uh-oh, Piper's
Writing was on the wall. Writing was on the wall in that fight. Yep.
Yeah, he was done. So the questions are, did he learn from it? And, is he able, to mentally control it and physically control himself? Going up against Marc-André Barriault, who this is a real close decision against Chris Curtis. I don't want to bet on Joe Pyfer, especially at this price. I mean, he just passed minus 300. That's crazy. Pyfer should win. Barriault he's a little too stationary. Tries to get he kind of gets in these, like the fight against Chris Curtis, which is kind of one of those slobber knockers. It looked like bar in the 1800s, two guys just standing there like blasting each other, and it was, and that's the thing. Like with Hermansson moves around, drained the energy. Like he can stick and move, and I'm not sure Barriault does that. So I don't know how I'm playing it. I just know I'm not betting on Joe Pyfer at minus 305. Maybe this is the parlay buster, but I think it's going to be way closer than people realize. I will say I believe that Joe Pyfer learned a lot from that Hermansson fight. I think he's going to come out much more controlled, and I'm looking at this over 2.5 at even money. I think that's a really, really solid one. I think Pyfer's going to be too scared to get tired again. I think you could see where if he lands a couple good strikes against Barriault, he pulls back, whereas in fights past he would run in and try and get. I think this fight goes over, and I think it's a very, very close decision. That's the only way I want to play it, because I cannot get there on Pyfer, but at the same time, I'm just not a big Barriault fan. I feel like okay, the Julian Marquez, fine, Eric Anders and Chris Curtis. So you do have his last couple fights that went the decision, and I didn't think the Anders and Curtis fights were that close to being finished. So over is the only way I will play this one. What do you think?
I agree. I think this fight goes to decision. One of two reasons. Joe Pyfer did learn a lesson, or Joe Pyfer didn't learn a lesson.
Yeah.
If he didn't learn a lesson, he's getting wrestled for rounds 2 and rounds 3.
That's a good point.
Okay? If he did learn a lesson, he's going to pace himself, and we've seen Barriault be tough. He is a tough guy. I like Marc-André Barriault just because he's just an all-around gritty, come forward. It reminds me very much of a Neil Magny, where you don't expect to see these wins, and he doesn't do anything flashy, but at the end of the fight, it's 29-28 one guy, 29-28 him, and split decision wins. I could really see Marc-André winning a really close split decision if Pyfer gasses. The plus 3.5 on Marc-André is going to have my attention. I hope that Joe Pyfer made improvements, because I don't want him to be a washout. I really don't. I think he's got a good skill set, but he's got to improve. And me and you have said this all the time. These knockout guys, when you want to break into the top 10, you have to be able to win a decision. You are not going to knock everybody out. You're just flat out not. Alex Pereira has gone to decision. If he's got to go to decision in fights, you're going to have to as well. So you got to learn how to play the game a little bit and win on the judges' scorecards and win convincingly. And I think the only way that you do that is by having that experience and having that cage time and doing it. We've seen this with young fighters all the time, where you just know the game plan is, listen, go out, get up on points, and I want you to control this fight for 3 rounds. So, sneaky way. I do believe Joe Pyfer could be our parlay buster of the night, because that minus 305 is not going to be from straight bets. He is most certainly parlayed.
Yeah, absolutely. Ian Garry and Michael Page. Now we're getting into some interesting fights. I saw Ian Garry. I think he's a villain UFC needs. God, what a prick. He was like, I shouldn't be fighting Michael Page.
I love Ian Garry. I do. I love him.
I shouldn't be fighting him. I should be fighting people above me. And then he was like patting himself on the back, like, well, I'm doing company a favor. Like, oh, thanks, Ian. Thanks for taking a fight, as you're a fighter in the UFC. So I'll let you go first, Ian Garry and Michael Page. What do you think?
I don't really like this fight. I don't think it's going to be a good fight. Let me phrase it that way. I don't think this is going to be a fight where we're like, I'm sorry, but watching Michael Venom Page throw these jump spinning roundhouse kicks and them not even being close to landing for 3 rounds does not excite me. Okay, as someone that trains in a karate base, it's like, that's great, but they're not landing. Okay, the spinning elbow against Holland, like, ooh, Okay, so you got Kevin Holland, who was way uninterested in that fight. Totally doing the UFC a favor, taking that fight. And you still couldn't finish him. You had him beat up. There's no ground game to speak of. Is this the time that we finally see the Ian Garry submission? It's been talked about. It's been said. He's got this ground game. He's training in Brazil. He always goes for it at the end of fights. And I wonder if it's just because he's up and, like, why not? But I do think that if he does get MVP down, MVP is going to realize that he is fighting UFC fighters, not Bellator fighters, when it comes to grappling. And you know what I laughed this week? Everybody's talking about the Yamauchi kick when he broke his kneecap.
Yeah.
Like it was some big, giant, fancy thing that MVP
Like he meant to do it?
No, yeah, exactly. We worked on that in camp, Joe, and, we have a dummy with a kneecap. We got a little X on it and kick that all the time. Like it's a 1 in a million. How many times have we seen that in MMA? Maybe
Never.
Twice?
Yeah,
And
never.
lower level? I just think this MVP signing is a show. It's for tickets. This guy is never going to fight for the title unless they fast track him for some weird reason. And this is a chance for Ian Garry to, if he wants to be exciting and he wants to fight up, Ian Garry needs to go out and dominate this fight. If he does not dominate this fight, and this is a boring decision, he can forget about fighting for a title. There's no way they're putting him in title contention for a split decision win over Michael Bennett Page. So my pick is Ian Garry.
Coming off a split decision winning Jeff Neal, these fights aren't. I mean, it's a good thing Ian Garry's exciting outside the octagon because he really hasn't been that great. Not super exciting. I'll lean ever. I'll play a little devil's advocate and I'll take Page, in that Gary's not going to end his career undefeated. Going with that mantra, he's due for a loss. That split decision against Jeff Neal, I don't know. I think Page can make this really weird. Gary's kind of a tacticianer, and Page could do a bunch of weird things that maybe puts Garry in some odd situations. I'm not going to say it's a confident play, but really the over, and it's really frustrating. Of course, they don't have the total out on this.
Totals,
I think it's the only fight on the card. But yeah, I would love the over in that one. I got to be honest. I'm going to buy this pay-per-view because it's a business write-off and it's kind of what we do. But I'm not going to like it. And I'm going to be upset when I hit that submit button. I think I prepaid for it. You get a discount if you buy it earlier. But you remember when UFC was making fun of PFL saying if you're doing a promotion about buy 2 tickets, get 2 free, you've got a problem? If you have Mayra, Bueno, Silva, and Macy Chiasson on your UFC 303 pay-per-view, you've got problems. Dana, let's pick it up here. You've got an Anthony Smith and Roman Dolidze on your pay-per-view. You're asking people to pay their money to watch these fights. It's embarrassing. Mayra, Bueno, Silva, and Macy Chiasson, I could not be less interested in this fight. I have no opinion. I don't want to bet on it. I don't want to watch it. I can make the case for both. I could make the case for a boring over. I can make the case that Silva pulls out a random submission out of nowhere. I have nothing on this fight, and I'm going to be upset when this fight actually takes place, knowing it is on a pay-per-view. What's your opinion on this fight?
I couldn't agree more, man. Why is this on the pay-per-view?
Because they're dying. They are dying.
MVP up there.
Oh,
At least there's a storyline.
They are. I believe this is. I believe Garry and Page now is on the main
that is
card.
The opener. That is the opener.
Yeah, it's
But
the opener.
I would take Cub Swanson and Andre Fili over this fight, no doubt about it.
I'd take Waterson and I'd take Gomez and Robertson.
There you go.
Over it. I'd take Ricky Simone and Vinicius Oliveira over it. So
and not for nothing, if you want to build young stars, that's where you put them. You put them on the pay-per-view. I'm so disinterested in this fight. There's no way to bet it. There's no way to bet this fight that feels safe at all. So to me, there's no value. It could end any way possible. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm just out on this fight.
And I don't mean to be disrespectful towards the two fighters. They're put in an impossible situation, but it's just like, listen, that's a UFC fight night fight. This isn't people paying their money to watch this. I mean, Macy Chiasson, okay, beats Panny Kianzad. Whoop-dee. The up kick from Aldana. Split decision against Norman Dumont. Her fights are not interesting. Mayra Bueno Silva is the queen of just kind of not being real interested in some of these fights. Goes to decision against Pennington. That was a horrible fight. That was horrible. The Holly Holm, like, she gets the quick submission, but it gets overturned. And then you go back to, okay, she's beating Stephanie Egger and Landsberg. It's bad. There's nothing I want to bet on, and I don't even want to watch it. So we move on. Anthony Smith and Roman Dolidze. You and I were joking. I actually think Anthony Smith matched up better against Olberg than he does against Dolidze. It's amazing that this fight used to be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree.
That's right. That's right. How far we've come.
Anthony Smith and Roman Dolidze. I actually am interested in betting this, and I am interested in betting on Roman Dolidze. And the reason is we correctly predicted that Anthony Smith was going to beat Vitor Petrino. We called that because it was like, Anthony Smith is taking that fight for a reason. He knows something about Petrino, the low volume, and making dumb mistakes. And then he takes the fight against Carlos Olberg, and we again said the same thing. Anthony Smith is no dummy. Like he'll go in there and go, yeah, Carlos Olberg could spark me and knock me out. But if I get Olberg on the ground, which I think I can, I can make quick work of him. And then Olberg is out, and now he gets Dolidze, who, listen, Dolidze, not a great performance against Imavov. That was a clinch fest and everything. And, same with Vettori. But I don't think Anthony Smith wanted to see somebody like Dolidze. I think he wanted to see somebody like Petrino, which is like, Petrino doesn't throw enough volume. If I get him in a choke, he's done. Olberg, if I just avoid the big knockout, I think I can get him on the ground and make quick work of him. I think Dolidze is going to make Anthony Smith work, and I think Dolidze wins a decision in a boring kind of grappling-ish clinch against the fence type of thing. But yeah, I think I'd be upset if I was Anthony Smith. So I got Dolidze in this one. What do you think?
Well, he didn't have to say yes.
Yeah, but it would have said a lot about him. It would have said a lot about him if he backed out.
It's a bad matchup for Smith. I think Smith's going to be a real popular pick because of what he did in his last fight. And Roman's stock has not been lower since right now. This is the lowest Roman stock has been. That was not a good fight. It was a 5-round fight. This isn't a 5-round fight. That could be our big learning lesson for Roman. If you had to guess which one of these guys comes back improved, it's certainly not Anthony Smith. It's Roman Dolidze.
Yeah.
Anthony Smith is a finished product. We know what we're going to get from him. Cardio's not going to be any better than it usually is. His ability to take damage is not going to be any better because he's still getting older every day. I think if you're betting this anyway, you're betting Roman. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a finish because Roman has that knack for when he is winning, he will pour it on. He will pour it on. His ground game definitely nullifies Smith's as far as his submission ability. So, yeah, I'm definitely leaning towards Dolidze in this spot. No bet yet, but you will not catch me betting on Anthony Smith for his second opponent change in a make-up fight that he was never supposed to be in.
Absolutely. Shout out Lee. I forgot. Yeah, it's International Fight Week. Supposedly one of the biggest cards of the year. Yeah. And this is what they
Very true, Lee.
This
is where we're at.
It's true. It's really bad. I just am not. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of this card. So, but let's try and make some money off of it. All right, let's talk Brian Ortega and Diego Lopes. This is the co-main, and then we'll get to the main event, Alex Pereira and Jiří Procházka. Both the main and the co-main, I think we got some things and some interviews and some quotes that are pushing us in a certain direction. I'll start with Diego Lopes and Ortega, and then I want to hear you talk about what Jiří Procházka said. I love Diego Lopes. I've made money on him his last 3 fights, all finishes. And Brian Ortega, The quotes from Brian Ortega are absolutely alarming. Like, if you bet on Brian Ortega and then you saw his quotes, you're probably in a panic. He said, there's no title fight for me in this division. So I'm going to fight this, and then I'm going to move up because that's the only way I can get a fight. He said, Volk and Max are ahead of me because of what they've done for the UFC, and they probably should be, but I have no future in this division. He said, it's also realistic that I will never be champion, and I just have to learn to live with that. He said 2 weeks isn't enough for me to get a good weight cut and a fight camp in, so I'm just going to go out there and fight and try and have some fun. Went back and looked at his last fight that he won against Yair Rodriguez, and the fact is he was getting his absolute ass kicked in the first round before Rodriguez hurt himself. Ortega's able to get him on the ground, but Ortega's eye is all busted up. And Ortega is just not a natural striker. It's kind of one of those things where he's added it, over the years, but it's just, he's not scaring anybody with his striking. Who is scaring people with his striking these days is Diego Lopes, man. Like 2 straight first-round finishes, and, knocking out Youssef. Youssef's a tough guy. That's
a good one.
That's not knocking out a real chinny guy. Takes care of Pat Sabatini. He let us know in the Evloev fight, I'm down to get on the ground with anybody. So I look at this one, I go, Ortega's, he's best when he's on the ground, and it's a terrible matchup. Lopes, I think, can get out of anything that Ortega is going to throw at him. And on the feet, it is no contest. Yair Rodriguez was killing Ortega on the feet in the last fight and then hurt himself. Remember, Jim and I were talking, he grabbed it. We thought it might be a core injury, but he was definitely compromised. Otherwise, he was on his way to steamrolling Ortega. I'm pretty surprised this line is between minus 140 and minus 150, depending on when you look at the lines. I'm wondering if there's going to be some big steam on Lopes the closer we get, because I just can't really find where Ortega has it. It's just all these fights start on the feet, and it's Lopes all day long, and I'm not sure Ortega's going to be able to take Lopes down. And Lopes is the bigger guy. To me, it's Lopes. When we get these good reads on these guys and we get these guys that we love betting on, you just kind of ride the train. I've cashed 3 tickets in a row on Lopes. I think I'm going to make it 4. So I love Lopes in this one. Those comments, man, from Ortega, just sound like he's already defeated coming into this. yeah, alarming. So I know you're on the same page with me on this one, right?
Yes. I've never been a fan of Brian Ortega. I've always felt he was super overrated. He's got a good ground game. Look, he's got a great submission game, okay? But in the big spots with the bright lights, Brian Ortega always falters. And Yair was on his way to putting him away. And we saw that live where Yair crumbled, and we couldn't bet Ortega fast enough because you just saw the injury. Let's not forget, Ortega rolled his ankle warming up in the beginning of that fight as well.
We had live bets on both of them because it was like Ortega rolled his ankle.
We're just
Yair
firing
just
on either side as much as we can, chasing the plus money. Somehow we made money on that fight. It's just I can't get behind Brian Ortega. This is a co-main event spot. This is saving a fight, 2 weeks notice.
Money grab as
this
well.
This is not the guy
Ortega.
you take a short fight against at all. So Diego Lopes, I don't think this fight goes the distance. I think Diego Lopes gets him out of there because I don't know if Ortega can take the beating anymore. I really don't. Yair was so close to ending him in that first round. And I know Yair's striking is better than Lopes, but look, Lopes, if he wobbles him, he'll jump on a neck. He's not going to be striker bust. Yair's striker bust. So he doesn't have the diversity. Lopes does. So Diego, man.
Main event, and once again, guys, go ahead and hit the like button and leave us a comment. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. That's where our content is going to be from now on. Our Takedown Live videos are going to be on this Winning in the Shadows Bets and Predictions channel, as well as the rest of our content. We'll have a bunch of MMA content, UFC, PFL. We're going to start putting up some NFL player prop futures and team total futures. Yes, it is that time, and we will also be talking a lot about our road to millions, bankroll management, and just some things that weren't able to do on the Wager Talks channel. So we really want to get back into doing that, and this is a great way to do that. So I encourage everyone to join, and also we have a Discord channel.
Yes.
And it is Winning in the Shadows, bets and predictions on Discord. I'll send out an invite link and encourage everyone to get in there. That way we can all chat and talk. It's been a long time coming. I don't know why we haven't done this before, but we'll be able to have everybody in one place, and that'll be an even better spot to talk about bankroll management units. And we'll do the road to millions content a lot more there, where we can show our units and show our bankrolls and things like that. So looking forward to the future of everything. Let's talk about the main event, Alex Pereira and Jiří Procházka. You got to start with your story about Jiří. He's a character, man. He really is.
So Jiří's on the MMA Hour with Ariel, and he's talking about how he believes that he knows Alex Pereira is working with a shaman, and he believes that he's using witchcraft and voodoo to be so successful in his career. And Jiří very politely asked Alex to leave the witchcraft and voodoo out so that they could fight man-to-man, mano-a-mano in this fight. God, what kind of a statement did I just say? Did that just come out of my mouth in an MMA fight? It did. Jiří's out there, man. He's just out there.
He's a character. He's certainly. By the way, where's the shaman when Adesanya sent him into the next week? Where was the shaman when he went to the distance against Bruno Silva?
Yeah, don't know about that Jiří. And Jiří's one that does his own spiritual everything. It's just...
Yeah, of all people to talk about.
Yeah, it was strange. It was strange. I mean, I'm sure it was funny, and I hope it is. I hope he's not serious, because then I'm worried for him. You know, we got some CTE going on. Bottom line with this fight is this. I don't think Jiří is ever going to be the same after that shoulder injury. I just don't, and it's a shame, and I'm upset about it, because I like Jiří. I like him a lot. I like him as a character and as a fighter. The word, unorthodox gets thrown around a lot, but, this guy and Keith Jourdain are the two most unorthodox strikers I've ever seen, and have been successful with it. I think Alex is just a different animal. Like, here we go again. Alex, save us. Can we get you on a main event? Sure, no problem. Fight a guy I already beat? Sure. Here's the thing about this rematch, fellas. Jiří being unorthodox, that only works one time. That's it. Once you've seen it and you've experienced it, there's nothing special about it anymore. Now it's just sloppy to Pereira. He's seen all he needs to see. He knows every read he needs to see. He's a kickboxing world champion that makes adjustments in fight. What do you think he's going to do now that he has rounds of film to watch? I think he butchers Jiří's leg, and this ends up being another fight does not go the distance, Alex Pereira, TKO.
I agree. I mean, Rakic early in that fight was just tuning up the leg of Jiří, and Rakic has got great leg kicks, and Pereira's might even be just a little bit stronger.
Way better.
And
way better.
I mean, it's not going to take too many of those from Pereira to just compromise, the leg. And I'm with you about the shoulder injury. I think I was stunned at how many people didn't make a big enough deal out of Jamal Hill's Achilles injury. And, the shoulder injury of Jiří, I'm with you. I'm not really sure that he's ever going to be the same guy. So, coming from, he beats, I mean, just look at him, Ozdemir and Reyes, okay, good wins, but then Teixeira, who was at the end, gets crushed by Pereira, and they beats Rakic. Rakic is coming back off of his own, big time injury.
Bad knee injury.
Yeah, terrible knee injury. So, it's not like Yuri's been beat. I'm sorry. I think Alex Pereira has the better, could I make the case that Pereira's fought the tougher guys? The guys fought Adesanya.
Yes.
How many times?
Yes.
Jan, Blachowicz. I mean, beat the, what out of Sean Strickland, and did what he did against Jamal Hill. I'm not saying Yuri's overrated or anything, but I'm going, okay, Ozdemir in 2020, Dominic Reyes in 2021, Glover Teixeira at the end, and then, Rakic coming out of knee injury. I could poke holes in these in these UFC wins. And then, when he does fight Alex Pereira really, put it on him. So I'm with you. I think it's Pereira. I think it's Pereira inside the distance. And, I mean, we saw how excited Alex Pereira was, like, when he was going to fight Jamal Hill. And I think I think you brought up a good point there. Like, unorthodox is only unorthodox the first time.
Yeah.
Then it's like Pereira's seen it before. So, I mean, when you saw Alex Pereira take that low blow and had the wherewithal against Jamal Hill to be like, no, I have Jamal Hill right where I want him.
Exactly.
Stay back. And then bang. I think Pereira is operating on a little bit of a different level physically and mentally right now. So it's Pereira by KO. Absolutely. So, all right, let's do a quick little recap here. We like Ricky Simone over Oliveira. Carlos Hernandez and Soria, nothing too crazy on there. Maybe under just with the road to UFC. Arlovsky and Boudet, it's Boudet all day. We both like Robertson over Gomez. Talbot, I have this. We're going to get to the parlay buster and the woulda, coulda, shoulda here. I have Talbot by finish as the parlay buster. I think that's going to trip some people up. Jim likes Charles Jourdain. I'm not willing to bet on Gene Silva. I'm just not willing to bet on Charles Jourdain. Cub Swanson and Fili. I think we like the under in that one. Pyfer and Barriault. We like the overs in that one. Over 2.5 at even money's pretty good. Garry and Page. We like overs in that one as soon as they come out. Bueno, Silva and Chiasson, no opinion. Anthony Smith, Dolidze. We like Dolidze. Ortega and Lopes. We love Lopes and Pereira. And Prochazka, we like Pereira a lot. All right, parlay buster. My nominee is Payton Talbot, inside the distance. I have no reasoning for it, and that's what makes a parlay buster is when there's really no reason for it. So I think that's the one that gets everybody. What's yours?
Joe Pyfer.
Joe Pyfer. All right,
Joe Pyfer.
That's good. All right. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. At the end of the night, when we're looking back, there's just going to be one where we're like, why didn't we just lay the farm on that one? That should have just been the easiest one. So what's your nominee of one where everybody at the end of the fight, not just us, but I mean just like everybody across the MMA betting world is like, yeah, why didn't I take that? What's your nominee?
Because of the line movement, and I think that he's going to close a dog, I think it's going to be Charles Jourdain. I'm going to stick to my guns on this.
Okay.
I think he's going to end up being plus money, and everyone's going to go, God, I could have got plus 120 on Charles Jourdain. 30-27 decision over Silva, or he knocks Silva out. I mean, who knows?
All right. I think most people are on Diego Lopes, so I can't really nominate that one. I'm going to go back to that we got Jillian Robertson at less than minus 200 over a 1-7. Michelle Waterson-Gomez is nearing 40 years old and who has no ground game to speak of, going up against Jillian Robertson, who only wins by finish on the ground. I think that might be the one. So, all right, that is going to do it for us on our UFC 303 breakdown. Once again, thanks everyone for joining us. Hit the like button and leave us a comment. Appreciate everybody for subscribing to the channel. We'll have artwork up, I swear, once we get our logo finished, and we'll have tons of content. So looking forward to it. And all of our Takedown Live content will be on this channel now. We may do a couple more shows from the original Takedown Live channel, but we're trying to move everybody over here as this will be our new home. So good luck on all your plays. Thanks for joining us, and we will see everyone later.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks a bunch.